We walk the streets, half made and yet alive. Keaton James, Season 1, Episode 3. A Beginning. What it's like to be nothing. Hey, if there's anyone out there hearing this, things are getting weirder, and I I just thought if you don't hear from me for much longer than I've already left late writing, it it might mean that I'm dead. And to be perfectly honest with all that's happening, I wouldn't really care. But if that does happen, don't be worried, okay? Oh, and it's going to be a long road trip, and fuel prices are high this close to the end. So if any of you little freaks have a few cents to spare below the trigger warnings, a demon and a ginger would greatly appreciate the help. There is blood in my teeth, my spine arcing in the cool air of the evening is not that of the flesh I have so long been forced to inhabit. Here in the wet void, the idea of me coalesces into the form of a wolf. My claws no longer ghosts, my wings still ethereal. Even here they escape me. I twist my new familiar head, the upper vertebrae of my neck cracking with the movement. The sky is full of stars, as is the inky liquid that spills along the solid coal of the ground. My eyes glow the pale yellow of tallow burning, their pupils still getting used to their new shape. The wind here picks up as I gaze towards the section of this pseudo-world which the meat of my brain interpreted as close to the sky. There lay things which burn with a far greater intensity than the stars above them. I feel static electricity pulsating through the coils of my soul, along my stained and cracked spine, raising the fur of this body until it stands on end. Almost subconsciously, a low growl springs to life, bloody and new in the cavity of my throat, as I realize what these great eyes, scars in the very fabric of the space around them, are. Suddenly, the void begins to take form around me. The shining red abominations of beauty and terror begin to blink, as if waking from slumbers, eons in length. Molten metal flowing in convulsing rivers from the endless moors buried within them. Sharp teeth, pillars of ancient bone, writhing tongues like vast tentacles, tapering to blade-like points as the shallow lake in which I stand begins to rise, crawling outwards to meet the falling exoskeletons of the radio towers in the form of jagged rock and flowing obsidian pines. The sappy ebony of this place seems to resist having form, and despite the power of the beings currently taking form around me, it seems to take considerable effort to maintain the shape of the pine-filled valley in which I now find myself. The ground now lacking its covering, feeling bare and wrong. has now the texture of charcoal, lifting with each step I take. At the end of the valley created by the things which have now taken full form, staring down a strange gallery among the desolate mountain range, there lies a single radio tower, alone where the great earth splits, roiling into satellite dishes sprouting from the sides of the thing, glowing golden in the light of the stars, chipped and dirty halos clustered around the constantly open eye. As I walk towards it, I feel the vibrations of the broadcasts, tangible lines wavering through the very core of me. My body stands on edge, my mind in awe. Lightning arcs through the air, now brought to a claustrophobic standstill, painting the outlines of clipped, ash-stained wings as the thing, now I realize the angel, begins to speak. Are you one who is made of hiding, aware of why we called you here? The tower at the end of the ravine calls in millions of voices, only seconds out of sync. I know better than to play any games. It does not initiate as I utter my response, ripped from jaws which should not be able to speak. There is a being, I am sure you know of him. I do not capitalize the pronoun as many do, only italicizing, rimming with as much venom as my years' sharpened tongue can muster. Something within me alights on the cracks between the corners of their wings and senses the disdain we may share for him. An abomination shattered between followings and denominations. Again there, often cleaved in thirds. I was raised Catholic, and, as much as I wish to exact revenge, a lifetime of pain for a shortened, agonizing eternity, I say. Then, as I see the crimson bulb flicker, the satellite dishes turn towards my suddenly infinitesimally small form. I throw my prior caution to the building winds. This could scorch my record from existence if any of this dream held weight, and if I had misjudged. To finish the rebellion you began. A rumbling thunder, the strange, pain-filled laughter of the angel pierces the momentary silence after my comment. Have they not given you a gift? Your gilded silver tongue, your ink-bleeding heart, your calculating fear, motivation, are they not all born of the fire of their trial? Do you not owe your very being to the ones you so hate, sitting in their hallowed halls, glass-stained with the blood of so many like you? You survived, and they made you more. It is my turn now for laughter, trickling thick between the teeth of this form, beginning to grow, points sharpening, branching out in fractal patterns, then again retracting. The fabric of this world is malleable, with enough practice. They did not create me. They burnt the pathetic, crawling thing I was, and it was I who rebuilt from the ashes, who turned the stigmata left behind to use, carved the cross to a spear with my tongue, sharpened over years of silence and bidden time, and now the fire that burns within me is my own. Fatigue is beginning to worm its way back into my twisting form. I am beginning to tire of this conversation. How much longer must I justify my existence to these things? Despite their fall from the court of my tormentor, I regard then, with hackles raised and uneasy mistrust, grown to all the world like a mold on my soul. It seems to read the thought on the radio waves of the pulsating meat and fat in my skull. You mistake your resurrection, little thing. You may have pieced the shattered corpse of you back together, but it is held together by a thin string. You never could afford the blowtorch. Never will, despite your escape. And too, the thorns of his crown still sting your side, invisible to all, till you open your scabbed mouth. Then prose begins to flow in an egotistical flood. Enough. What purpose is served by this taunting? The low growl has returned, rising with the white hot anger, the fur and flesh of my forehead parting, crimson liquid spilling, carving valleys in the soft charcoal below, as a multitude of almond holes make their presence known. Alabaster bone soon being covered by bubbling liquid, hissing in the cool breeze until it solidifies into a semicircle of dark saffron eyes, blinking freshly and sprouting like fresh flowers from the hanging edges of my desiccated throat walls. The voice I use to speak is made of wind and hatred. Why, then, did you call me here, one who is fallen, ash of the morning star? Bile begins to make its sickly path from every orifice at the sound of the broken angel's true name. Though he is a speck compared to the things which dwell beyond the murky edges of human comprehension, a mere creation of one of the less potent yet, unfortunately, more revered gods, the sheer force of the belief in him rockets through the construct housing my soul. I was, after all, born into a human form, as much as that disconnected from the home of my mind. It took all the effort within me not to melt into a horrendous pile of gore and fragmented bone. The malleability of this world at once turning against me in my rage. Even names have limits to them, and while those beings who are lesser known carry far more power in their forms, the weight of popular culture is truly a horrific force. But uttering the thing does have some effect. The rusting iron of him glows white hot, dripping as it had when he first materialized, cracking and splintering along the joints. Radio dish halos sprouting crawling molds, fungi that cycle the world through decay. The glass of the great red light that sat at the core of his being becoming tainted and splintered, and the lightning shells of his wings split along each of their many pinions, arcing wild tendrils in grasping desperation. And still, though through it all he laughed, a shattered, hopeful thing, like weeds sprouting through the pavement of a city drenched in the miasma of human lives. We only wished to give you a gift. Pledge our help in your doomed rebellion? Why would you, who's made of dirt and hiding, succeed when we, who have stardust and hope, have burnt to ashes in his wake? Too unimportant the time for others to see our pain? Well, he had the last word on that, didn't he? The broken archangel lay before me, almost pitiful, if I was in any way to pity his first creation. Pause, then resuming. Though we are fond of hope, as reckless as that may be, and such as we wish to aid you and your partner. I laugh, roar now in the face of it. I am so tired. I want this to end, to return to the soft warmth of unawareness that was my only comfort in those years. Nothing in this world or any comes free. What must I sacrifice? The great eye shifts quickly as if thinking. The pulses of electricity that run up its veiny wires, spilling out and flaring along the still white-hot metal. We shall give you 3 drinks to progress towards your goal and an awakening. We only ask a few memories and a name. These 2 are a gift, really. Something deep within the static-filled meat, snugly still sat within my skull, clicked, realizing what the fallen were offering. Warnings prickle along the cord of my spine, finally reasonable in the fears they present. Despite this quiet, wet horror, and beyond any reason, this was a deal I could not refuse. There would always be more, further debt to pay. That was the way of the world, and I now am lucky enough to have nothing to lose. You may have a name of mine, but may I ask which memories, before they are gone? The thing approximates again, a grating, burning laugh. A question, a cave, and a conversation. We will do you a favor. Rip them bloody and dripping from the meat viewer in your sleep. You will feel nothing, apart from maybe a headache. Nothing new. The name, though, must be given. The contract. Seal. Fine. I grit my ever-sharp teeth until they begin to form a soft layer of dust. Those still in my jaws, anyway. I give this name and memory to be taken at a later date of free will in exchange for the gifts you have agreed to bestow. The name that floated then through my desiccated maw, shattered fractal light, bone of teeth, blistering the tongues as they split and curled in their cage, had been long dead. It had been mine once, and I almost mourned as the gargantuan tongue of the fallen morning star snapped out to lick at the fiery, thrumming sound waves of the word as it was given, scourged and scrubbed from the record of the world, apart from within him, and when he used it. Not possibly against me, but, I guess, if he could see them, him, if those things I was when the name clung like spinal fluid to the soul of me, never quite part of it, but attached and known. Darkness began to creep into the edges of my vision, through the corners of all my many eyes. The meeting was coming to an end, and if I was lucky, I would be given some time, short, however short it may be, in the warm void which I had been so rudely ripped from. As my eyelids, crusted with the tears of sleep, crack wearily open, I flick my tongue along the dry bone of my teeth. There is a metallic darkness lodged behind the crook of my throat. I run my hands along my forehead, shivering in the mottled ash over brown leather of the stolen car seat, and I notice a change. There is ink upon my hands. I attempt to rub it from the flesh, and it is then that I realize the tourmaline liquid is buried deep under the veins which now run through with a similar substance. I blink, dazedly attempting to convince myself that this is just some vestige of the night's dream, and yet, at least, the eye inlaid deep in the palms of each of my ragged, too large hands does not blink, though I am afraid it might. I desperately pull at the fabric of my sleeves in search of a further defilement from the angels, and I find it. Etched deep within the meat and fat of me, upon each arm, there is another tattoo. The left arm bears a crown of feathers and thorns wrapped around the pathetic tube of flesh. The right, a wreath of teeth and knives, each sharp point capped with a speck of red, glinting as it catches the weak, fresh sun. This is a mark as much as it is a gift, and though I do not know what exactly it means, I will grant I do know it is an omen. We are watched. I wonder, sadly, whether to tell the person that lies draped across the back seats, auburn hair caught like fire in the morning light, of the dream and its consequences. Not yet. I leave the car, burning sunlight countering the fresh cool of the mountain air as I walk again barefoot towards the edge of the forest. There is a pocket knife that weighs heavily on my mind as it sits in the back of my jeans. I have never been one to take a knife to my own flesh. The pain that dwells within the meat and brittle bone of me has been enough so that I never considered amplifying it to be an escape. Though now I must test the extent of the change. I could, I assume, have carved away the soft, warm flesh back then in hopes of reshaping the unruly chains of my body, but that would never have worked. And even in my darkest moments, I had some reason against such actions. Maybe I'm not as damaged as my moaning poetry would have those who read it believe. Maybe the entirety of the image I show to the world is but smoke, obscured again through wires and radio waves. Maybe I am just an egotistical mess. Nothing. I cannot ponder this thought too long, though. It seems I am again slipping. The dark spiral of self-deprecation and emotional pain is almost comforting in its familiarity. Soon, I reach a place beyond the outer boundaries of the forest, ancient pines looming overhead, their comforting presence like a weighted blanket on my soul as I slip the silvered knife from my pocket, flicking my wrist to extract the clean, sharp blade from its ornate casing. I flick again, resheathing it, and repeat the process as I fidget nervously. Would we all be better off if I shifted the location of the cut from plain curiosity down towards the bony crook of the end? Open not just flesh and trivial veins, but search deeper for meat, slicing like warm butter until it hits bone, scratching along, one thin, sharp nail across its final chalkboard. But then he would win. Then the proper retribution would not be bested, and things would continue unbalanced and about to fall. Slowly, sitting on that carpet of dead leaves where I had collapsed in momentary thought, I peeled back my mind, excising it from the matter to which it too often strayed. Gently, I reached it down and slipped the knife again from its coating, poising it above the skin, stretched poorly across the back of my arm. A short trail cutting through hair I will not miss, and then sinking lower. The upper layer of meat bursting open like the flesh of an apricot, overripe and rotting from the center outwards. I dared not push too deeply. Still, there are things I need this arm, this body for. Soon, it began to leak then, trickling thickly down my arm, as the juice running from a freshly cracked pomegranate grown from the holes of the dead. It was not blood, as we would have thought, though it is the substance which now pumps through the sacred holes of my veins and arteries. I, it seems, have become almost the creature of ink and burning that lives in my mind in place of a reflection. I wonder, how will this affect my meds? The laughter that bubbles then from somewhere deep within is genuine, despite the kernel of unease beginning to unravel at its core. Such mundane thoughts in the face of such glorious change. Even he, the unrisen phoenix, of so little power that a name spoken once can almost destroy him. A mere angel, fallen though, and the first to do so, could have this much influence upon my form is a troubling thought. Even if the result is mildly pleasing, the ink seemed to flow with the same consistency of blood, at least, trickling placidly down the staining skin, dripping occasionally from the ends of my fingers, far too large for my comfort. Where it met with the ground after travelling down the spines of many autumn leaves that scattered the forest floor in various states of decay, small things began to sprout, fruiting bodies, it seems, of fungi, fresh and small, poking gently above the rotting matter that shall soon be their sustenance. I imagine then the spreading tendrils of their mycelium, breaking through the soft upper layers of dirt and humus. I cock my head to the side in curiosity. There is, quite literally, magic in my veins. I stand, gently pulling at my jacket, wrapping it tightly around the small wound to prevent further bleeding. There will be a lot to consider on the long desolate stretches of road we are soon to traverse.